If you grew up in the early 2000s, you knew how cool the games were on the LEGO website. My personal favorites were Matoran Escape, Backlot, Command the Mari, Battle for Power. There's a bunch, and I'm probably not remembering all of them, but all of those pale into comparison to Supersonic RC. It's a LEGO racer themed game that has you piloting the titular set Supersonic RC around a LEGO store. I think that has got to be the coolest setting of any LEGO game to take place in. The place in your mall your parents would let you hang out in unsupervised, but instead it's 20 times bigger and you have a cool car to drive inside of it. That sounds like every boy in the early 2000s dream. There's also nods to other themes in the store like Dinosaur and of course Bionicle, because let's face it, if you like LEGO Technic, you also like Bionicle. There was multiple challenges in the game, but my favorite was always free play, where you just rode around the store for fun. Getting the car up in hard to reach spots and doing crazy flips to get points were always the best part of the game to me. This game literally made me want to buy the set, but sadly by the time I played it, this game was already 4 years old and the set was no longer in stores. Plus the fact that I was only 8 meant I couldn't buy it myself, so I kinda let that dream die. Even though I do have the money to buy it now, I doubt I would get the same enjoyment from it. Not because the game greatly over-exaggerates the actual abilities of the RC car, or the fact if you did try and do some of the crazy tricks like in the game, the set would most likely break into a million pieces, but for the lone fact that the set itself is like $500 for a sealed copy of it. And no, I'm not gonna buy a used one. I don't want some kid sloppy seconds. Alright, kid and sloppy seconds should not ever be in the same sentence. Why did I write that? Even though I have no real intention of buying LEGO Set 8366, I would love to own a remote-controlled LEGO set. When I was younger, I owned both RC cars and LEGO, so the fact I could have the best of both worlds in a single toy really intrigued me. But they were always so expensive to own, and it didn't help that you could just go to Radio Shack back in the day and buy a pretty sturdy toy car for like a fifth of the price of a LEGO remote-controlled set. The closest I ever did coming to buying an RC car was the off-road buggy from 2021, but when it retailed for 130 bucks, I decided to just buy Zane's Titan mech and the bonsai tree for my mom. And do I regret not picking it up? Well, not really. I was just not a huge fan of the color scheme mostly. Also, the fact I'm still using the Zane Titan mech for Bionicle mocks to this day really made me happy I picked that over the knockoff Mr. Beast color-coded buggy. But just recently, I was given an opportunity by a company I worked with in the past by the name of Barweir to help them advertise their Christmas sale and this set from the CADA Off-Road series. If you remember Barweir, they sent me a copy of the Area X officially licensed SpongeBob Krusty Krab set, and they loved the video I made so much they wanted to do it again. This holiday season, you can earn yourself gift with purchases on orders. With the more money you spend, the bigger the gift with purchase set is included. If you order soon and you live in America or Europe, you could have the option to have your item shipped from a local warehouse, meaning your purchase can come potentially before December 25th, but you'd have to act soon. Again, I would take that with a grain of salt, but I've had only good experiences with FedEx personally, so just be aware of that. Because this offer ends on December 25th as well. If you guys do order anything, please let me know. Me myself, I'm actually eyeing up some new SpongeBob releases on the website. Area X actually made SpongeBob's Pineapple House now, and it would be fun to do a direct comparison with my own LEGO Pineapple Home. Anyways, thanks to Barweir again for sponsoring this video. I'll make sure to put the full rules to the gift with purchase in the description, and let's get on with the video. This is the tank SUV by the LEGO knockoff company CADA, which sounds like how a Bossa guy would say Jimmy Carter's last name, or if they were trying to remember that show which served as John Travolta's breakout acting role. This set retails on Barweir for $28, but after shipping is $50, which may seem like a lot, but for a LEGO based set is an incredible deal when you factor in the fact that this is a remote controlled car with a motor. CADA, from what I heard, is one of the best when it comes to Technic vehicles, so that puts my mind at ease. As beside Bionicle, I never really buy Technic exclusive knockoffs, though as you can imagine, since we don't have to deal with ball joints like from a standard Bionicle set, this vehicle is probably as structurally sound as a traditional LEGO Technic set. I chose this set because I love orange, and the fact that it's a solid color makes it really stand out. A traditional LEGO set would be too clashing in multiple colors, I feel, but the orange and black here work incredibly well. You would think this set has a ton of pieces, but there's actually only 561 parts, not counting any extra parts that come with it. And I theorize one of the biggest reasons why this is because this set is all basically built on this giant plastic block that houses the set's motor, radio receiver, battery compartment, and steering servo, taking out a lot of the bloat when it comes to building this. Plus, I like that the studs on the back have their own custom CADA insignia. On the underside of the function housing is a tuning button for the right and left steering. Also, a small but soulful detail they included was this small detailing between the steering and battery compartment and on the back wheels. It reminds me of a Hot Wheels car from back in the day. Apparently there's less of that these days. If you're a Hot Wheel guy, please explain to us in the comments the erasure of Hot Wheels undercarriage details. Now, onto the actual building of the set, I have no real complaints. Putting the pieces together felt like actual Lego, a step up from the early 2000s bootleg Legos you'd find in 99-cent stores. Here, there was actual clutch power in the parts. Speaking of parts that came in this set, there was one actually very interesting custom part that stood out from the other parts, both officially produced by LEGO and custom ones made by the Chinese, and that is this 4-long Technic pin, something that has not existed up to this point in LEGO's part catalog, nor something I knew I ever needed in my life. The only real complaint I had was the fact that I had to apply stickers, but I understand why they exist, and on a cheaper set like this one, it's pretty much guarantees I'm gonna have to place stickers, which is a gripe for me personally because I got shaky hands, but also building this while sick didn't help much either. So yeah, some of the stickers are starting to slightly peel off because having to reapply them twice or more times. But to end on a positive note, there were a ton of leftover parts at the end of the build, but out of all of them, I'm happy there was one of these 4-long pins, and I'll definitely try and see what I can do with this piece. Maybe even get some more in the future, because they look insanely useful for mocking. And finally, we have the actual car itself. And I have to say, without a doubt, this thing looks amazing when fully built, which is both a great thing and also this set's biggest problem, but I'll discuss that in a bit. First off, the outside of the car is nice and orange with black as a secondary color, which I think looks great. Also, the way they angled the Technic pieces really gives it a convincing Jeep or Hummer look, and almost makes it look not even Lego, which, because technically it isn't, but because of how professional the silhouette looks to me at least. Surprisingly, there's not many gaps in this set's build either. Everything is nice and solid. There's not much more I can say about the outside of the car, it just looks really good. One final thing I could mention is how the license plate has the set number on it, and also the side view mirrors are a nice little touch too. Then you have the inside where they managed to fit more details, like a little steering wheel and some small chairs, which is pretty neat, but sadly because of how small the driving area is, you can't fit standard Bionicles in there, not even a full Matoran. Your best bet for a rider in the front is probably one of those Technic minifigures released in the late 80s to 2000s. The fact that I don't even own one of those to test that is criminal. During the writing of the script, I actually placed an order for not one but 2 of them, so don't worry, I'm gonna write this wrong. But yeah, it is unfortunate you can't really fit a Bionicle inside the driver's seat, unless of course you take off their legs, then you can easily fit a Tohunka in the front seat. And if you're willing to take the parts off of other Machs or Bionicles you own, you may find that this set has a ton of space for everyone. Okay, that's enough of me yapping, it's time to test this thing out. I was surprised at how well this car controls. The turns, acceleration, and reverse all feel very responsive, and the fact that this set included a physical controller and doesn't force you to use a phone feels way more professional, as it feels a little better to grip on my hands, cause I like to actually touch the buttons when controlling an RC car, and surprisingly this controller only takes 2 AA batteries, which is kinda shocking if the last time you owned an RC car like myself was the early 2000s, when D batteries were the standard in these kind of toys. Anyways, you can also pull off some nice drifts if you have enough speed and a smooth enough surface, which may seem like a bonus, but at the same time might just be standard with any RC car. Now, you might be wondering why I am driving around indoors instead of outside, where it would seemingly make more sense to test drive for the set. But the reason why, as I mentioned earlier, is because of the many system pieces that make up the detailing on this set. System pieces are just not made for this kind of aggressive play. The first hit and they'll go flying, and there's a bunch of pieces you can lose on this set if you're not careful. Like these translucent bars and clips that sit on the front most of the car. Seriously, you're better off not putting these on the car at all if you plan on driving it. Use them for your minifigures or stop motion instead at that point. I think even LEGO figured out you can't just put system pieces on a Technic motorized set. Technic pieces just have way more clutch power and security of not falling off after a crash compared to a system set. I mean, just look at Bionicle. They were designed for you to take them outside to play with and smash it to the ground because they could take a few hits. Now, do that with your Star Wars X-Wing set and it'll smash into so many pieces you'll be finding them in your garden years later. I'm not saying you can't mix the two, but just like the difference today between our Bionicle sets from our childhoods and our revamps of them today, one was obviously meant to be played with, and the other was meant to be photographed and posed every few months or two. You can't just have system Lego on an RC Technic car if you want to really play with it. Unless you have an auditorium or a large empty room you can use, the chances are you're not going to have enough space to really reach top speeds with this car, without having to worry about the greeble falling off. I know that last rant I said kind of paints this car in a bad light, but if you really practice enough with this, you might just find that you don't really need that much indoor space to enjoy this car. Sure, turns are pretty wide, but you can still find that with a little patience and skill that you can still rotate your car in another direction without having the bumper missing. I mean, at the end of the day, for $50 total, this isn't a terrible car. Perhaps taking off any system bits and replacing them with Technic would ensure an even better playing experience, as you wouldn't have to worry so much about crashing the car, which, when you're using it, is going to happen. If it wasn't so cold and wet, I would definitely want to try and take this out to a field and see how well this vehicle can really handle. Some pros I would say about this car is the low cost of entry into RC Lego, the colors, the parts that come with it, both original and not produced by Lego, the inclusion of a rechargeable battery for the car, and the fact that beside the system bits, this car is pretty sturdy. And any downsides for me is the system pieces that make up the key parts of the exterior build, wide turning being kind of annoying indoors. The lack of lighting for the set was also kind of a bummer, seeing how you'd think they'd include it in a car set. And the wheels were also kind of annoying to put on, but overall, if I would recommend the set, I would. But to older fans who are willing to learn to drive this, but I'd also recommend the set, especially if you have any idea to revamp this to remove the system bits for standard Technic. Thanks again to Barweir for sponsoring this video. I'll put a link to their store in the description so you guys can check it out. And thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. This was probably the best year for this channel in views, and the amount of videos that I was able to turn out feels good, and I can't wait to keep doing this again in 2025. I know I probably won't be able to hit 6,000 subs by the end of this year, but I'm still grateful for each and every one of you who did subscribe and watch my channel. The fact that I was even able to reach the amount of subs I did when this channel mostly focuses on Bionicle content is crazy to me, since I'm starting to lose faith that this is ever coming back at all. But unlike Bionicle, I have no plans on stopping, so thank you again to all of you for subscribing. I want to do one more video for this year, and probably take a break for a month, and come back strong in February. I already have a small catalog of videos in the planning stage, so stick around for that. Happy holidays, and I'll see you next time.